There are more than 5 trillion pieces of plastic littering the world's oceans. How we manage plastic waste is one of the major challenges in taking better care of our environment. Garbage found in the world's rivers and oceans can cause major issues, from killing birds and marine life to being the source of microplastics that contaminate our food supply. Most people agree that humans need to be better stewards of the earth. We just differ on how to get there. For decades now, there have been many lawmakers and activists whose only solutions seem to involve more government control, destroying freedom, and inching the world closer to authoritarianism.
Not hyperbole, the very survival of our planet is on the ballot.
We do not yet know the full extent and the systemic and structural changes which will happen.
That's where this guy comes in. Boy and Slat is the founder and CEO of the Ocean Cleanup, a nonprofit organization that develops technology to remove plastic from the world's oceans. And to get his story, we gotta go to the Netherlands. In 2013, Dutch inventor Boy Slat founded the Ocean Cleanup at the age of 18 in his hometown of Delft. His team has 120 engineers, researchers, and scientists who are developing solutions to rid our oceans and rivers of plastic.
Of course, the whole reason why the Ocean Cleanup exists, why we're doing this cleanup, is to maximize the amount of good that we do. And there's two sides of that. There is maximizing the performance of the cleanup, but also minimizing any possible negative side effect that the operation may have, which relates to the emissions of the vessels, as well as possible encounters with marine life. Now, on the emissions side, at this point in time, we are compensating for all the carbon emissions that our vessels emit. And this is important, but at the same time, we also think it's still important to keep pushing to reduce the amount of fuel that the vessels require to operate. And next to that, when it comes to bycatch, what we see is that System 2 is actually performing exceptionally well. About 99.8% of what we catch is plastic, so that's a really good ratio. However, still, for that last 0.2%, we keep pushing to try and minimize that with System 3.
A key focus for the team is the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, a massive collection of trash littering the North Pacific Ocean between Hawaii and California. The Great Pacific Garbage Patch covers an estimated surface area of 1.6 million square kilometers, which is an area the size of Texas or 3 times the size of France. 1.8 trillion pieces of plastic are estimated to be floating in the patch. If we could put it all on a scale, the weight of it would be the equivalent of 500 jumbo jets. Slat's team deployed a large-scale ocean cleanup system to the patch, and during just 3 months at sea, completed 9 trash extractions. And to put it in perspective, the machines removed more than 63,000 pounds of plastic in a single haul. Now that the technology has been successfully validated, the Ocean Cleanup team is scaling up to design and deploy System 03.
Now, our key performance indicator is really the cost per kilogram of plastic removed from the water. Because essentially what we could do is right now, with our current system, you could already clean up the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. But it wouldn't be a very smart thing to do because it would just be very uneconomical. It's really expensive because you just need so many cleanup systems. And the thing is that the cost of the cleanup is completely driven by the amount of vessels that you need. So it's all about limiting the amount of vessels that you need per area covered. So That's why it's so important that we're going to go big now with System 3, where our aim is to produce the blueprints for the scale-up, for the fleet of cleanup systems. And our current modeling is showing that deploying 10 of these systems should be enough to clean up the Great Pacific Garbage Patch.
So if you see, System 2 is written as System 002. And that comes from a bit of a history at the Ocean Cleanup. When we initially started the designing of our system, where we're also looking at passive versus active, the modeling then shows that we may need 100-fold of these systems to clean up all the gyres in the world. Now, with the recent upgrades to an active propelled system and also the engineering we've done looking forward, we've changed System 3 into System 03. So we actually ditched one of the zeros, and the reason doing this is because our models now show that we don't need 100-fold systems anymore to clean up all the gyres in the world, and that really gives us something to look forward to in the future. In parallel, we're engineering and manufacturing System number 3 components, continuously getting the learnings from the field into the design. And the first step we're going to make is adding a new retention zone. So that's the bottom part where the plastics actually enter the system. We're going to design first the new retention zone and add that to the existing operations out there, which we are then going to turn that System 2/A. Also then, what we'll have ongoing is the production of the wing sections, the outer ends of the system. And these will include upgrades, which are related to the integrity of the system, the performance in the field, but also we're going to increase the depth from 3 to 4 meters. And System 2/B will then be the new retention zone, but we're going to add the new wing sections, but remain in an operational configuration of 800 meters. So once we get that all under our belt, we're going to progress to what we call System 2/C, which means we go from 800 to 1600 meters length of these wing sections. And then run a new test campaign as well to make sure we are still meeting our performance requirements there. Now the final step we'll take, and then the system becomes System 03, is we're going to add another section of 800 meters, meaning the total length gets around 2.5 kilometers, including the opening of the retention zone. And with the increase of size, we need to introduce a third vessel into our operations, because with such a large system and with such an amount of plastics we're going to extract, the amount of plastics which we get on deck and need to transport to shore will increase. And that third vessel is basically going to allow us to do continuous operations in the field. So every 2 weeks, one vessel will be relieved by another, meaning that the system is harvesting continuously throughout the year, whilst plastics are being shipped to shore by the vessels departing the field. And once they come back to the field, they of course bring new supplies, new crews, and the next vessel can be relieved. Now what we've learned over the period of harvesting, which has continued with System 2, is during the winter time, as we expected, that operations got a bit more challenging due to the increase in the weather conditions. And that meant that we needed to time our extractions more carefully. So we did that to a certain extent quite well, but we also learned that if you get the timing right or you're not quick enough in your turnaround, that you have some weather downtime. So that was a first significant learning. What we also had was during the periods out there, we also noticed that we had some encounters with marine life. And the good part was that we saw that our environmental management plan worked well. We saved the majority of the animals there. We also noticed that we caught a few animals, and after careful necropsy and interviews with experts on the outcome of those necropsies, we learned that animals were actually lethargic or ill. And some of them even quite ill because they had quite some plastics in their stomach. So I think the learning there is, the plans we have are working well. We do see sometimes when animals are in the system that the only mechanism to get them out is to flush them out with the plastics as well. And the fortunate part is that the animals survive. The unfortunate part is that we lose, of course, the plastic we've harvested. But we've also seen, thirdly, that animals which are ill or sometimes near dead, that they do act like plastic, so it's almost inevitable that a few of them enter into your system. So that does mean we need to think this through further, how to optimize that part. And another learning was that, our geniuses, I call them, from the computational modeling team, they've developed a model which allows us to steer towards the areas of high density plastic. We've actually noticed that those models are quite accurate. But we've also noticed that we need to get the decision making correct in which area to deploy at the start. take into account the weather conditions that are then known, because if you are operating the areas of low density plastic, as you can imagine, the outcome is less satisfactory as if you would be deploying in the areas of high density plastic.
There are many takeaways from this project, one of which being that climate justice, environmental justice don't need to be dispensed through a government mandate. The answer to planetary changes is not more government, it's human ingenuity. Human beings are smart, we're resourceful, and as the ocean cleanup demonstrates, we're able to solve our greatest environmental challenges through the private sector. We don't need a Green New Deal, we don't need nations and companies to pay exorbitant fees into some climate exchange. We don't need ESG scores. All we need is for government to get out of the way and allow people the freedom to innovate.